Next speaker is Sean Lucan from Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Yeah.
Thought it'd be kind to the committee's craning necks. So good afternoon. My name's Sean Lucan, and I'm a family doctor in the Bronx. I care for patients who are low-income minorities, mostly of Afro-Caribbean descent. Most have a low level of health literacy, and most suffer from obesity and diet-related diseases. My comments today draw on my experience caring for my patients, as well as on my expertise in nutrition and influences on dietary behavior as I do research in these areas. With regard to challenges to implementing the dietary guidelines, I think one of the biggest is that the guidelines often speak in terms of food components or constituents, not recognizable foods. This is a problem because patients have a poor understanding of esoteric concepts like calories and saturated fat, and moreover, attention to such food components may not always lead to healthful choices. For example, there are healthful foods that are high in calories with generous saturated fat content, like some nuts, and unhealthful foods relatively low in calories that are fat-free, like various ultra-processed foods designed by industry to meet guideline food component recommendations. A second challenge with regard to the DGAs relates to cultural inclusiveness. For example, none of the guidelines' 3 eating patterns clearly translate to Afro-Caribbean traditions, and all include a food group, i.e. dairy, to which most of my African American patients are physiologically intolerant. As to opportunities, I think these follow from the challenges. The biggest opportunity, I think, would be a focus on specific foods, both foods to choose or emphasize, and those to limit or avoid, not ambiguous food categories or constituents. Patients don't generally understand terms like refined grains. They understand words like white rice. Patients don't generally understand protein foods, or rather they often misunderstand this to mean only meats. They understand words like beans and lentils. A second opportunity for the DGAs relates to cultural cognizance and speaking in terms of specific foods that make sense in ethnic traditions and biological constraints. You can search the entire DGA document and see no mention of dasheen, dumplings, callaloo, or oxtail. And for those who are lactose intolerant, they get the mostly unhelpful advice to choose non-dairy alternatives based on esoteric food constituents like magnesium. Of course, there are other challenges and opportunities for the DGAs, particularly related to sustainability, food preparation, issues of affordability and access. But since my time is almost up, let me just focus on what I view as the most critical issue, and that's integrity. The process that generated this scientific report of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee was rigorous and admirable. But some of how that report got translated into the DGAs had less to do with science and more to do with lobbying, politics, and special interests. That compromise is my biggest challenge to implementing the dietary guidelines. Having an independent body to identify who should direct the scientific reviews with attention to rigor, comprehensiveness, and protections against bias and conflicts, and who should draft and subsequently approve final guidelines would restore faith and provide greater motivation to implement the guidelines clinically. Thank you, and I'm happy to talk further if the committee is interested.